That's all right.
I have to tell you something about the whole peace thing. I went to a Buddhist meditation on Monday night up above the Mandarin restaurant.
Yes.
And yeah, and I've also been going on a Thursday night up at the Spiritual Wellbeing Centre.
Yeah.
And was getting a lift with Kelly up to the Buddhist meditation, which I've never been to before. It was the first time. I said, because she said Saturday night's going up at the Spiritual Wellbeing Centre, and I said, yeah, no, it's lovely. I walk in and I feel at home there, and you know, the gentleman Warwick, he's really lovely, and I feel like I connect with him in conversation. It's all just really lovely. But the meditation side of it, I get a bit distracted with all the talking that not that he does a bad job or anything, but just that there's a lot of talking. So I said, you know, I'm going to see what this one's like, and I'm still going to keep up with the two. But when I went to the Buddhist one, it was complete silence.
Yeah.
And they turned off the heater even, and so just focusing on the breath. So sitting for 20 minutes, focusing on the breath, and then we very slow walk. It wasn't really even a walk. It was more of a step every now and again to stretch the legs, and because some people can't sit for the whole time, and then another 20 minutes of sitting and just concentrating on the breath. And I really found, like, at one point I could even hear the silence. I know there's no sound with it, but I could hear nothing. I really felt like I was connected with the breathing thing, and I could hear my breath was in rhythm with the lady completely opposite me, you know, who was running the group. And that was the first time I've really felt like I went within. It was really powerful. And when I came back, oh, it was lovely. And so when I came back, I went up and had a shower, and then I was taking off makeup in the mirror, and all of a sudden I found myself, I mean, I know this sounds a bit mad. I don't do this very often, but I found myself apologising to myself for all of the horrible things I've allowed to happen to me, and, you know, through relationships, and apologising for all the harm that I'd done to my body. And I was really emotional, like I was crying and everything. And then I was telling myself that I love you and I really care about you. And it was unbelievable. And I never expected that to happen. It was just kind of, it just happened, you know. And I feel like I can't wait to go back next Monday and do another meditation. I know it's not always in silence, but I thought that was really powerful.
Thank you so much.
It was lovely.
Do you recall that thing I read out on meditation? You know, a couple of weeks ago. It's that you've described an experience. Well, there's many things you just described, and it's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that really jumped out was that you went through a transformative experience. That's what, and we just forget that. Even if you have an experience like that, which you've had, you know how easy it is to forget that? And
I can imagine.
Caught up with everything going on, everything else. So somehow it's in our nature to forget things that are important and dear and special to us and profound. So it's good, it's useful to be reminded, either to go to something like what you've just indicated, or to have some means or a teacher or a way to reconnect regularly, because we do. It's just strange, but we do need to be reminded. So good on you. So that's a good step forward in the direction of going within, as you in your words, as you put it.
It was really it was beautiful. It was very peaceful.
That is incredible. And and the thing to be clearly aware of there is that there is virtually no messages coming from this world that would encourage you to do that. So, to go within, I mean, and to feel content, feel peace, and to allow yourself to even go through a transformative process, as you described when you were looking in the mirror, because you're really, in that transformation, you're allowing yourself to really connect and be more yourself, if I dare say it that way.
Yeah.
And you bring forth levels of kindness and compassion that again isn't conducive to working often in this world and being in this world.
No.
So all I can say is thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's interesting because yesterday with everything that was going on with the car, and I just tried to remain really calm about it all. And then when I went for a walk up to Audi after, which I didn't really need to do, but I wanted to go up and get energy drinks, which probably aren't very good for me. But anyway, and I got to Audi and I grabbed a few things, not a lot, and I got to the checkout and my card wouldn't work. And so I said to the guy, it's okay, let me just put it in and I'll use a PIN number, maybe that'll work, and it still wouldn't work. And I said, oh, it's all right. And I just straight away I thought, look, I'll just leave stuff behind. I've had a good walk, anything else. So and I was pushing everything to him, and this lady came out of nowhere with a $50 note in her hand, and she was like, let me pay for that for you. And I'm like, no, that's okay. I really don't need any of this stuff. It's not important. But she was like, no, I insist. And so and it was only $13, but I was so uncomfortable with the whole gesture.
Yeah.
And even though I let her pay for the groceries, and I was very grateful, even though I was kind of lost for words.
Yeah.
But when I walked up the street and I had to sit down for a minute because I'm very emotional. So I thought the whole act was so beautiful that I had to sit down and cry about it because I'm such a sook. But then when I was walking along, I was thinking about, why was I so uncomfortable with that whole thing? I'm so happy to do it for other people. Am I so uncomfortable about someone doing something nice to me? And then I started saying to myself, I'm worthy of kindness as well. So I had to, but it's something that I'm not used to.
No.
Do you understand? It's
totally.
I mean,
totally.
I'm having a very good week.
Sounds like a fantastic week to me.
In the area.
You're reminding me of some things that conversations I've had a long time ago, and it's like we're not used to receiving. We're not actually,
no.
Even though we are born to receive the many gifts that this life has to give us, really. But we, again, the programming, and I don't want to set up, some sort of dichotomy here that, everything going on in the world is bad and the only thing good is what's going on within us. It's not like that. It's just that we need to be, we need to reacquaint ourselves perhaps with a way of being that is closer to who we are and what are really our needs and what is really important to us. So we get distracted, there's no doubt about that. And, and it happens through life, and our parents teach us really what they've been taught, and their parents teach them what they've been taught. So often it takes a long, long time to break that sort of cycle if it isn't that conducive to happy and fulfilled. So if something happens in your life that's unique to you, that reintroduces perhaps yourself to yourself in a way that is quite eye-opening, and you might say that having an experience like you had with that meditation is one way that can happen, that you're introduced to an aspect of yourself, because paying attention to your own breath is a very intimate process of being with yourself, without any judgment or reactivity, without any distractions, as you said, going on the outside. So as you start being, as you start getting more comfortable with that aspect of yourself, well, then things start to change. And I think then it would be an uncomfortable experience for everyone to be able to just accept money from a stranger. I know that, unless you're used to it.
Yeah.
And some people are begging because that's what they can do, and that's they're homeless, and that's all there is. But for many of us, that is strange. But again, thank you for sharing that, because it is quite an emotion, and it connects us with other people.
Yeah. Here's Michael. He's here.
He's here. He showed up.
What did you?
Stray dogs, so I had to bring up the pound and wait for the pound to get there. I didn't want him to get hit by a car.
Oh, he's been doing good deeds.
God, you're both doing so many incredible things and having good happen. I think
it's a good week now.
It's been a good week. So anyway, thank you. But one other thing I wanted to say to you, Anne, particularly, I just wanted to reiterate when you shared, and I think it was when we did the meditation, or it might be one of the other classes we had, where you shared your experience of when you were in incarceration and the effort you made to really turn around your environment. I just wanted to say to you that, and acknowledge to you that that is a very profound thing and a very admirable thing that you did. So when I heard that, and it was really only upon reflecting upon it later that I realized, wow, that is not an easy thing to do. So you really rose to the occasion. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that. And that's if we can be more like that, and learn to be like that as humans and as individuals, well, I mean, that's going to turn. That's one person. That's you as one person turning around a situation that could be potentially bad. I mean, that is very profound, and you should be very proud of yourself for that, but also keep yourself in a place where that's ongoing, really, like the environment you're in, even just sitting there with Michael. And I'm actually going to read something out to you in a minute that actually talks about that as well, about the profound effect we can have on people around us and our immediate environment. So anyway, good on you. That's all what I've got to say about that.
Thanks, Michael.
Good on you for coming, Michael. Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
Don't worry. It's all right.
It's a bit late.
You were looking after some dogs there, stray dogs, or?
Well, I was late taking off anyway, but where I went, there was 2 dogs that were strays, I think, that started following me, and they just were so cute. So I had to stop them.
That's lovely.
You nearly
wanted to bring them home, but I couldn't.
That reminds me of my father when we were younger. One day he came home he was a builder, and he had this cardboard box. We all thought, what's in that cardboard box? And we opened it, and sure enough, there was a dog in there. He found this stray dog on the side of the road, and that was our pet for the next many years. Sweet.
Yeah, unreal.
So I was saying to Anne that you chose peace last week. So we're probably going to. Do you remember that? Like as part of what we're going to focus on. I'm just don't want to put you.
I'm lucky to remember what happened yesterday, but yeah, I do remember that.
We were. I only said that because I saw the look on your face, like what the.
Did I really choose that? Yeah.
Because anyway, so that's good. That's a good thing. So maybe we can sort of stretch that out, because it is even though it's a lifetime endeavor, we'll try to look at it over the next couple of weeks. And
not too bad, eh? He's just testing my energy drink.
Oh, they're usually evil, Michael. I would definitely stay away from them, mate. They're
Oh, I wouldn't go there again.
evil in
disgusting.
I don't care.
Right.
I
don't care today, no.
Why don't I?
Gym this afternoon.
There's so many things that we can do. Why don't I just, if you're okay with me doing this, I'll just read out this thing. And I had a video, a little audio clip lined up of Prem Rawat as well. So maybe I'll just read this out, and then we can. I'll ask you where we want to go with the rest of the class. So just give me a sec. I'll just find where I actually put this. Okay, here we go. So I don't know. This is a little extract. It's only very short. It's from a clinical psychologist called Jordan Peterson. Have either of you heard of him? I've mentioned him a few times, and no, don't have much experience with him. Okay, that's fine. I won't go into it all, but I'll just read it out. So this is he in September. He often does what's called a Q&A, or a question and answer, once a month, and audience send in questions to him. And this one person sent in a question, and this is his answer, or this is what he said in regards to that. It was really talking to some degree about peace, like peace versus being right. But also focusing on the notion of, in psychology, we call it catastrophic thinking. And it's relevant to what's happening on the planet at the moment, since we're in a pandemic. And if you've been seeing what's happening in Melbourne, many people are suffering. And then that brings up the potential to do catastrophic thinking. Catastrophic thinking just means that you basically think the worst is going to happen. So I'll just read this out, and then I'll talk to you again. All right, so here we go. So I'm just going to read this. I'm reading from the screen here. You can't see it, but I'll just read it out. So this is an introduction. He says, "You are the center of influence, the magnitude of which you don't want to underestimate. That's part of the idea that you're a sovereign individual of divine value. You're a center of consciousness, and the ripples of your ethical or unethical activity produce a larger consequence than you might ever want to imagine." So that's the start. That's the introduction. But then he goes into it. So one strand of that thinking, you might call it catastrophic thinking, is how insignificant you are out here on this tiny dust mote of a planet among hundreds of billions of not only stars but galaxies in this near infinite universe that has this immense time frame. And there you are in some isolated suburb of the galaxy, spinning around the sun pointlessly, suffering away until you die and vanish. One dust mote amongst 7 billion. So who cares if you live or die? Well, any number of things about that way of looking at the world just aren't correct or helpful. First of all, you're not one dust mote amongst 7 billion. You're networked. You can demonstrate that arithmetically very rapidly. Each of you is connected on average with about 1,000 people. That's an underestimate, especially across your lifespan. Maybe you'll influence 10,000 people in your life. Some of you, many of you, more than that, and some of you less. Let's say on average it's 1,000. And I mean those people you influence quite profoundly, for better or for worse. You might not be the cardinal experience in their life. That's only true for a small number of people you interact with. But you can have an influence on a lot of people. So that's 1,000 people. And each of those people know 1,000 people. So that's 1 million. And each of those people know 1,000, and that's a billion. So you're 2 people away from a billion people. You're a center of influence, the magnitude of which you don't want to underestimate. That's part of the idea that you are a sovereign individual of divine value. You're a center of consciousness, and the ripples of your ethical or unethical activity produce a larger consequence than you might ever want to imagine. If you don't want your world or society in general to destabilize, you have to work for that, right? That means, to some degree, being willing to stretch out your hand to your enemy. And interestingly enough, and this speaks so directly what I was just saying and thanking you for before. It's quite, I didn't plan it that way, but it's just quite synchronistic. So if you don't want your world and society in general to destabilize, you have to work for that, right? That means, to some degree, being willing to stretch out your hand to your enemy. People who annoy you, people who you don't agree with, people who push your buttons, because of course, you're not having a conflict with the people you agree with. You're having a conflict with the people you don't agree with. You need to figure out how to make that fight worse, unless that's what you want. Hopefully that isn't what you want. You don't want to make the fight worse. I think the way to sanity is it is precisely through that. It's through the development of your individual character, so you can be the sort of person who can listen to someone who's pushed themselves into a position that's too extreme and entice them back to the consensual center, so that you both can continue to live in peace. But you have to work for it. You have to work for peace and not for victory over someone else. If you're smart, you fight for peace. You do that with your wife, for example. The same thing applies to your husband. You want to win when you have an argument with your wife. Well, first of all, good luck with that. You have to you have to wake up beside
That's a man speaking.
Yeah. You have to wake up beside her the next day. And if you win, then she loses. And then she's a loser. And that's who you wake up with. Maybe you want to wake up with a loser because you want to be a martyr or you want to be a winner. That's fine. But you play that game for 5 or 6 years and you'll be in your own particular brand of hell. That's for sure. And you'll deserve it too, because you produced it. You have to live with your neighbors, crazy as they are. They may not be any crazier than you are. That's highly probable. Now, it sounded like I wrote that. I didn't write that. That was actually Jordan Peterson talking, and that's a transcript of what part of the question and answer. So I thought it's truth. There's some truth in there. That's how I resonated with it. So I thought I'd read it out to you.
Jordan Peterson, is it?
Yeah, Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist, and he talks tough like that. He's taken on, how can I put it? When we talked about the psyche a couple of classes back, and I was talking about Carl Jung and the old psychoanalysts who really acknowledged parts of ourselves, deeper parts of ourselves that can generate problems, that can be a source of concern for us. And Jordan Peterson is someone who is fully versed in the current form of clinical psychology, CBT, a lot of the practices that happen that you guys are familiar with as well. But he's also kept an openness to more difficult things to talk about. He's not afraid of talking about the dark side. That's what I'm trying to say. So that is that he pretty much believes that is in some way in all of us. And it would behoove us to be conscious of that, to be aware of that, and not to push it under the carpet and not to continuously blame for the misadventures in our own life and in the world in general. So anyway, yeah. So any feedback? Anything anyone wants to say?
No, it's very interesting. It's true, though. I think whatever you do has a ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just that.
Go, Michael.
Yeah. Just that last comment you made about God, oh, my mind, it's just gone.
It's there. Go through the. I was talking to Anne before. We were talking about memory actually, but another part of memory, when something that this happens to me, it happens to all of us. So if something doesn't come up, the first thing that'll come up in you is anxiety, like, oh, I'm going to look like an idiot. I just forgot what I was about to say. So when you know, because we all are like that. So the first thing that's going to come up is anxiousness. So the trick is when you find yourself in a position where you're about to go red in the face, and you can feel the anxiety starting to well up inside of you, don't buy into it. Don't buy into the anxiety, but keep going. So I find this so many times, Michael, like I'll forget something I'm going to say, but I keep the conversation alive. I don't let anxiety take over and just, make me shrivel up and hide in the corner. Yep. I just keep it alive. We're just human beings. We're just, just talking with each other. And usually nearly 99% of the time, if you keep it going, if you keep the conversation alive, that which you forgot will magically pop back in.
Will come to you.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because halfway through what you were saying about anxiety, I remember what I was thinking, but now I've forgotten it again. No, what I was going to say is, in that last comment you made before talking then, in regard to blaming others for what's happened to us or how we feel, is something I think, or for me, for myself anyway, in active addiction, that was what I projected. This is not my fault. This is everyone else's fault. I am doing what I'm doing because of what's been done to me and how wronged I've been. But now I look at it a different way, and I think that's helped heal a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's great. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. There we go. You guys look very mellow.
I'm relaxed.
I like listening to him talk.
Yeah, well, that's great. Let's leave that there for today. I'll see you on Friday.